Today's guests were part of a solar power project in rural Africa where approximately 40% of the workforce were women, but not in administrative roles serving teas or coffee, but actually civil works, mechanicals, and electrical construction. So I invited them to tell me a little bit about how they managed to do this. Today, we're going to be unpacking with both Patricia and Liz what were the challenges and what others can realistically take from this. So let's begin. Patricia, tell me a little bit about yourself. How did you end up here?
Thank you very much, Patricia. My name is Patricia as well. I'm Patricia Musila. I am a Kenyan working on a solar project in rural Africa. I am a mother. I am have been an environmentalist since it's the course I took in uni. And I have practiced in renewable energy for the past 10 years, both as EPC and as developer. I am on this project serving as the Environment Social Governance Officer for this project on the side of the developer.
If I can ask you, what made you go into this field?
I have always been very moved by matters on climate change, and it's been a very strong footing for me through my university. And I always looked to work on climate change matters, particularly when it comes to energy. So renewable energy was really such a fit for me from the moment I stepped from university to starting my career life.
Liz, and I would love to also know a little bit about yourself. Who are you, Liz, and how did you end up here as well?
Thank you, Patricia. My name, as you said, is Liz Makena Mureithi. I come from Meru, which is in Kenya. I'm an assistant environment, health, safety, and social officer, assisting Patricia in ESG. Aside from Patricia, who knew that she wanted to be in environment, I actually wanted to become a doctor.
Really?
Yeah, I wanted to become a doctor. So, and for you to be accepted in the universities, there's a grading system. So I couldn't reach the mark for doing my doctorate course. So with the aim of needing to help the people and the environment, my next and closest option was being an environment officer. I actually call myself an environment doctor.
Environment needs doctors.
Yes, yes, exactly. My current employer now this is going to 7-8 years now. So before I came to this project, I had worked for 6 years as a community liaison officer, working directly as a liaison between the project and the community. So coming to this part of the country, it was a bit challenging because the religion, the culture is completely different, like a difference of 70 and 30% difference. So it was a bit challenging, but I had Patricia with me because she has she didn't mention but she's been in this area for a long time, so it was easy for me to integrate.
So she was mentoring you.
Yes,
She mentored me.
But it's amazing because when they think, oh, if you're from the same country, you should be able to work very well and know the culture of the country. But it's what you said, it's actually very regionally specific. And sometimes it doesn't automatically mean just because you're from that country that you will understand or completely, be part of that one culture. I mean,
Yes, I can even maybe offer and say that we have we have like as many cultures as we have tribes, and we have now 47 tribes.
47.
And the cultural differences really show for sure.
they're quite big. But then take me back to the beginning when this project was just starting, right? I mean, this is a solar power plant in rural Kenya. At what point did the idea of increasing women's participation ever enter in your mind or even the conversation?
Okay, so maybe a little background on that is that our Kenyan constitution actually does calls for inclusion of both genders or of women and men in a representation of a third inclusivity to be on women. So we've always grown with that background of the backing of our Kenyan constitution. But then when it comes to the industry, experience tends to make people sort of justify why not to get to a third. I mean, it's really a hard thing. It's construction. It's very intensive on labor. So there's always justification all around us as at why we can't reach a third. So for this particular project, I'll say that I drew my biggest inspiration from my employer, mostly because in the staffing and mobilization of the developer themselves, not the project. The way they staffed for this particular project was with intentional inclusion of women, which is where now I came in that I borrowed from what I had seen recruitment look like for my employer for this particular project. So as you come for interviews, as you forward people for interviews, remember that we need to allot this many number of positions for women. So that was my inspiration. That's where I drew the inspiration from. Our project had 4 contractors running from the start of construction to end of construction. Now, getting to run on the same tone with these contractors was quite challenging. I had seen it work for my employer, so I didn't want to imagine that it's something that couldn't be done. It will be done. It could be done. So we said, okay, at the mobilization phase, where I'm meeting the first contractors to be on site, because I remember, I think they all phased in differently. We started with one contractor. So I onboarded that one first. In our first mobilization meetings, we will say, okay, you know what? This is the scope of works between this period and this period. I remember it was in January, start of year.
And if I can just maybe interrupt a little bit, just to summarize, to see if I understand it. So your current employee, when he hired you and when he was hiring the people that were going to supervise the construction of this project, his recruitment policy was already geared towards more women. And so that gave you inspiration to go, okay, if they're doing this, maybe I can do this at the level of the constructions. So maybe tell me, what are the phases and what does an EPC contract stand for?
EPC contract will stand for engineering and procurement. So in this case, we had all our scope of works for the installation, for the construction and installation of a solar plant broken into different pieces of contracts with different contractors. So for earthworks, we had a contractor who did earthworks for the project. That was the initial clearing of land.
Oh, that's the earthworks.
Yes. Then we had a contractor who came in to do part of the installation of the solar plant. And then that included what will be the piles for the solar plant. Then we had a contractor, the one who did works, came in again now to do the pre-assembly and assembly of parts onto the onto the piles already. So that was contractor number 1, again acting in another different role. Then we had a whole different EPC doing the transmission line installation and electrical works at the connection point. That was another EPC. So that's the 3rd contractor.
Yeah.
And the 4th one came to do construction of our 3D building for the control building where we have our engineering rooms and our administrative office. So those are 4 contractors.
So you have the first contractor that is doing the earthworks, and it's with him that you start having this conversation.
Yes. So when we started earthworks, then the first step anyway is mobilization. So that's the point. We get to meet the contractor. We are talking about the expectations and how we expect them to program and plan for monitoring on ESG aspects when it comes to their scope of works. And that's where we started now having the real conversation on how to engage for labor. So the first hurdle was the contractors have worked as contractors in many other projects. So they already have like a click, they're sure. I know if I call such and such a person, they're going to come in and we're going to do this just as we did in another place, and it was so seamless and easy. So now the first order of business was to get them to accept that, okay, this project is located far away from where you've been before, and you have to pay some form of recognition to the communities that are around you. So if any opportunity is going to come that doesn't require special skills, then we are going to consider our neighbors because they are part of the project, they are stakeholders. So being our neighbors, being our community, you cannot import labor from 1,000 kilometers away while you have people who are here. So that was the first hurdle, which was quite difficult because in most cases, people are familiar with people they've already trained and they are sure, oh, I worked with this person and it's very easy to bring them here, cater for them, get them started, and then we just get started on the work the way we did in other projects.
You issue the tender, you always ask them to do local recruitment. So
Yeah.
why would that be a surprise? Why would they not think, well, yeah, it's part of the proposal that I put in?
You see, that is at perhaps a director's level, that they might be aware of the terms and the very intricate details in their contracts. But then now come to the ground, they'll bring their supervisors, their foremen, and these people are the ones who need the people who they feel, in quotes, quote unquote, can push the job. I realized there was a lot of that coming through, where people will tell you, I'm sure in this, I can trust this person. When they come here, they'll push this work, will be done by this. And unfortunately, a construction period is often defined by timelines. So everyone is pushing to chase a deadline somewhere.
So they might not know all the terms of contract, but they definitely know the timelines.
Exactly. So now, taking back to the requirements of the contract, first of all, is looked at as a delay in most cases. They're like, we would have been this far if she had not stopped to make us comply to a certain thing. Yeah, you see? So that was part of one of the discussions we had. Then now, moving even from that point of recruiting locally, where, of course, once you sit with them and you take them through their expectations in their contracts, they have no any objection at that point. But then again, with the same understanding that I will need to push this works as fast as possible, they'll always front men. So once we call out and people come, both men and women, then you see that recruitment is preferentially going to men. So we will stop at that point again. We regroup. Then we're like, no, if you have 40 opportunities, you have to really recognize that there are women in the community that have also come forward and they want to be taken up in the project, and they want to participate. They want to be able to be employable. Give them an equitable opportunity as well.
But were the women coming as well? Because I would imagine that if you put an announcement of a job opening, that maybe women will go, oh, that's for my husband or for my son, not for me.
You see, when we put out that advertisement into the community, we will communicate to them and say, do not hold back women. Let the women also come. Let them try and let's see how it's going to go. So even as we were rolling out on that ask, because most of the time the focal points of communication with the community happens to be the administrative positions, like the area chiefs, the village elders. So we'll tell them, you know what, when you're recommending or asking people to come into the project to seek for work, don't hold back women. Please tell them, if you have a woman who can try this out, let them come. Our position was left to just observe. Okay, while you're doing that, are you still observing to give women opportunities? Then on those opportunities where you will see, okay, preferentially men are getting jobs, but women are not, then you will step in and say, let's go back to the job.
And did you have to step in at some point?
Yes, I did. I did at one point. I think there was this one time, once we started on the conversation of having women onboarded, they did onboard a woman. She was given work to do around cleaning and cooking. So now, when I went to the traditional role. So when we went back on having conversations of, hey, you guys, you're getting now to 60 workers, please bring on board some more women. Then they will say, no, but you've already given the job that was there. I mean, how many kitchens can we have? How many offices can we have? We can only get them done by one person. And then I told them, okay, but I'm here in the project. I'm seeing women who are ready to work whenever they meet me, because we had during some public participation, they told me, please, we can work in solar. We can also do this. We can do that. So when I told them, give them a chance, let someone come and don't look at them as women. And if, let's say you give me a chance as Patricia, and I come and you give me a scope and I fail at it, you then don't further engage me as Patricia, but don't use that to disqualify Liz. So I will reason with them that way. And I'm like, if two of them fail you, don't say women are incapable of this. Say so and so did not manage the scope I gave them. If I'm going to be very honest, the very first recruitments might have been done perhaps to prove that it's not going to be possible, but the women didn't fail.
I even hit the table. That's funny.
And I think it started a journey that was the most incredible in my eyes, because I watched so much unfold. And there is this perception that women don't work as fast as men. Maybe people have their own ways of justifying that. And there was also this perception that perhaps we can mention it in this forum, that the people in this part of the country were perceived to be the laziest. So now they're saying, oh, lazy people from this part of the country. And then now they're even women who will never finish this project.
Will never finish on time because the pressure's timelines.
Yes. At that point, I will come in and say, you know what? They've come. Just give them. Let them start. And if they start and they fail on merit and you disqualify on merit, then I will not ask anything of you. But don't fail to give another one a chance because of your experience with another one. Then now, there was also a fear from the women's side. They are coming into an industry that they can tell they're green at. So they're also not so sure if they'll also perform in the same industry.
Yeah.
And they also have this perception that, okay, I don't do this. I don't do this kind of work. It's my first time to do this kind of work. Will I actually make it? But what I will give it to them 10 over 10 is consistency and a very tenacious spirit.
Like, I've never done this, so if then I might fail. So I'll just do it my best. But
I will say, speaking from a woman's perspective, the way I saw it happen for them, I sort of identified with that, because you could tell that this person has a push from where they're coming from, perhaps financially, perhaps some, some financial constraints, and they are here and they need to make money. Actually, almost like 70% over of women that we kept interacting with, they will tell you, I have to work, otherwise what will my kids eat? I've never had a man in the project tell us, I have to work, otherwise what will my children eat? They'll always tell you, oh, my family is depending on me. But you see, when someone tells you what will my kids eat, it's very real, it's very now.
it's very
So,
personal.
yeah, exactly. So you will find that whenever they'll come in, they will come in with an expectation of, okay, I need to do something at the stores, or I'll be given some light duty, sweep here, sweep there. Then you come, it's a solar plant. We do not have that. So whenever they will come, I had a discussion with the supervisors where I will tell them, if someone comes looking for a sweeping duty, okay, it takes me back to that crack I made earlier, that there was this expectation that they will fail. So let's see how far this goes. So they will always come. Some of the supervisors will come to report and say, you see, the women are here. They want jobs of sweeping. We don't have that. Then I say, okay, we don't have jobs of sweeping, but just tell them what's available. You never know what's going to push someone to do something. So they will tell them, okay, what we have is moving with this machine here to this point and this point. They were like, are you willing to try? And 100% of the women will go, yes, and they will try. So we've had the privilege of talking to them through construction and even post-construction. Up to date, they also will not believe how they move from challenge to challenge to challenge to challenge. And by challenge, I mean you came here looking to sweep and clean. Then you found the work actually involved carrying some concrete from one point to another. Then you're done with that and you're like, hey, I can do that. And I just did it so well. So tomorrow I come back again. And if you're going to engage me and tell me now, carry sand. So I did cement yesterday, I can carry sand. So the mind opens, the expectations open, and they start opening up to, hey, I can work in a construction industry.
But this is also from both sides, Patricia, because you have the supervisor that are normally used to dealing with men, that they're trying to open up and go, hey, they carried sand yesterday. Maybe they can mix, so they can do this. And the women also coming and going, hey, I carried sand yesterday. Maybe I can.
Exactly. And at that point, Liz had joined me. So we are both going, hey, they can do that. They can carry sand.
You were surprised also.
Because we saw their own sort of self-doubt. You can tell this person has never worked in this industry before. Yes. You can tell they are in it because they are in dire need of making a livelihood out of this. We will sort of mentor them, talk to them, and tell them we are in men-dominated fields, and you're seated there, and you're also in a construction industry. Maybe, I don't know if I can get quite a bit personal.
Please do.
My husband works in white collar and I work in blue collar. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine how that even looks in my family. I'm the one working Saturdays. He is Monday to Friday. So there's a societal expectation where normally people will imagine it's a man who's going to be in this industry, but then it's a woman who is in this industry. So the same trickles down to them. And then now at that time, something else is happening to the EPC. They're realizing, hey, we don't have to chase these ones on time. they're more consistent, they are more reliable, they are easier to work with. They do not have this back and forths, and they do not have maybe perhaps funny clicks that you feel are working against your timeline. So they're also opening up and liking to work with the women in that front. You will get somewhere where now we go to a point where they would preferentially keep a woman over a man.
They kept said they would employ them for a task, and then the next day they might have a different task. So they would need to see out of the people that we have, who do we keep, who do we bring someone new. And what you're saying is that they started slowly actually keeping the women.
Yeah, they started keeping the women because at some point then they realized it was actually aligning to their very goal of finishing in good time.
On time.
So yeah, so you will find that for this particular EPC who started, the moment they recruited women, when you say, oh, I'm calling for a toolbox to discuss safety issues, the more attentive ones, the ones who won't give you a headache over compliance, the ones who will stick to a work program to the end. Their own, when we get to interact with the EPC, it was the women who are considered in such moments. So it made it easier for their supervisors as well. And in that way, we could see there was a bit of preferential leaning towards, okay, whoever is supervising the group of women had an easier time than the one supervising men. So that was very interesting to see. Then over time, it moved into now the more technical parts. Because initially...
So now we've moved from earthworks. You've been talking about the earthworks period. And normally what you have there is carrying cement, carrying sands of bag. You also mentioned, right, clearing things. So it's a bit more manual work.
It's manual. And actually, if I can pull an example from one of the contractors, remember, we said some of our contractors phased in. After the earthworks one came, we stayed like 2-3 months. Then I think beginning of April, the EPC who was doing the transmission line came in. So every EPC that comes in, you go back to the drawing board.
You start from scratch.
They don't believe you. They don't believe me. But that was the one who was doing the line was the easiest for me in that he experienced firsthand. He called, you see, he's doing the transmission line. So there's a certain depth that they need to excavate to, erect the poles, the utility poles. So, and it has to be of certain dimensions because, it has some electrical specifications to it. So when they called for people to excavate, they hired men and hired women. But softly, the women had some softer roles. But anyway, hey, they had been recruited and they were in the team. So once they started working, the men were not so consistent in showing up. They will come today and tomorrow they have another better opportunity in construction elsewhere. So I think that also was a factor that the women don't get as many opportunities, but the men do. So they have competitive offers. The women, you're here and that's it. So I think in his second week of pole hole digging, he realized that his consistent numbers were coming from women, and they were doing such precise work in excavation that he now just told me, these ones I'm keeping for, and that was an eye opener for me. So in fact, for him, he even stood bold and was like, hey, when the men came back, he'll be like, hey, I've been doing so well without you guys. These ladies have taken me all the way to, I think at that point he was at, we used to call it Pole 22. And he worked consistently with women. And from his experience, I remember he will tell me, when he go to the civil works, because he was an electrical contractor, when he go to a civil works, he told me, I am going to hire women because I find that they are such good foremen. He had never experienced that. And interestingly, he moved with that civil engineer to other projects beyond our project.
Really?
Yes. So that was very eye-opening for me because he was the second one to come in, but he embraced it so quickly. They didn't fail him. They were on time and they did exactly what
was he able to deliver the project on time?
Yeah, he did. So I realized he will have an easier time organizing with women because at times we will even join them for their toolbox talks. And he will have an easier time organizing with women than organizing with men. And I could tell the fact he took advantage of that and just hastened on training these women to gain these skills very fast. He even ended up recruiting into construction the lunch lady.
Oh, really? Even the lunch lady?
She will just come. You see, our project is set in sort of a forested area. So there's a lady who will come to vend over lunch hour and supply food. So because of how consistent he had identified the women to be, he would very easily try to talk to her and see if she can, blend into the works. And one time she was like, yeah, aside from what I do over lunch hour, which I can ask someone to do, I am actually in need of a job. She was in construction.
This is fantastic. I mean, he opened his mind and he was like, I'm getting to my timetables. I'm getting to the places that I need to get to fast. So,
Yeah.
and so let me recruit more and more. And apparently exactly what you said, I can train them and they can
Yes.
do. And then the earthworks have now
Mhm.
finalized and you're
Yes.
entering into the mechanicals, into the mounting.
We are now in pre-assembly where the contractor has also realized something very unique, that it's faster to assemble these solar parts with a woman's hands, because I think of the size.
Yeah.
So they were becoming very valuable as well, because they would say it was a bit clumsy when they're working with the men, but with the women it's a swift, fast, and very quick workmanship.
When they're putting like the nuts and bolts and they're tightening the nuts and bolts and assembling the pieces.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yes.
How
So
interesting.
yeah, that was another thing that came. I think the contractor told us that was a learning curve for them, that they had never had an opportunity to try out women, and when they did, they realized, hey, they work faster because of their form and the size of hand and everything. And then number two, there's less pilfering. You're not losing nuts and bolts. You're not getting people, stealing from you the small parts that you really can't count in entirety. So that was very advantageous to them. So at this point, they've come to realize that, hey, we're doing quite well with the women that we're having here. I come from far with this person, from carrying sand, and now she's the one telling me inverter this and TCU this, and some technical terms and skills are exchanging, and they're really swift and good. So you find that they will also, like you say, take ownership now of the recruitment that they've done with the women, and to a point where we have had women account to us that at the end or towards the end of the assembly period, their supervisors would prefer to remain with the extended period. They prefer to keep women over men. Yeah.
This is really unique. I've worked in infrastructure for 13 years, if not more. And again, I've never seen this happening. And is this where Liz comes in, or Liz comes a bit later?
No, this comes in a little bit earlier, in between the mechanical, towards the end of the earthworks. She was here.
So Liz, you come in from being a CLO, which is a community liaison officer, right? Working with communities, being that person that speaks to communities, normally between a developer and a project in the communities. And you go, okay, now you're going to come here and you're going to be doing what exactly?
Okay. I was actually shifting my roles almost completely because I was going to integrate a lot of the environmental factors like waste management, integrate the social part of it as much as I had done that in my previous employment.
Yeah.
This was now more focused on the construction period where there's a lot of danger, there's a lot of safety issues that are coming in, and also the part of health in case there's any problem or any hazards and risks that are being identified with during the construction period. Together with Patricia, those are the issues that I was coming in to help her do. And also the works they had been determined first to continue up to the 10 p.m. in the night. So coming in, I was also coming as a reliever for her or her for me whenever we come into work so that we work in shifts.
Correct. And so then what you come into this world where suddenly you are in a construction site with things moving, different contractors coming, a little bit between the earthworks. Was this the first time that you were doing an infrastructure project?
Definitely. It was it was my first ever construction period infrastructure project. It taught me a lot. It taught me how to relate with the contractor, it taught me how to relate to the community and how to make sure that all those individuals relate well with each other. I saw a lot of things. I've never had so many hazards and risks presented to me, and I'm the one to take care of the other people so that they cannot be harmed. And I had to learn fast.
And tell me, and then walk me through this. So you arrive at the end of the earthworks. You've got Patricia there already. And you kind of come in and you have the new EPC contractor, which is the I guess the mechanical that's coming in as well, comes again from scratch. He wants to employ according to what he already knows how to do, that knows that this works well, which is mainly either bring people that he knows and or secure more workers from the community, but normally they tend to be male. So then you have to now also convince him. So how did that happen?
Okay. Since there was a base that Patricia had already created, it wasn't so much difficult to work with the other new contractors that were coming in. So what happened was that every week we had weekly meetings where all the contractors and now the client would sit. So during those meetings, we would make sure to mention and ask what activities are coming in that were not there before. Do you require to recruit new people? Then the meetings were like a monitoring and evaluation period for us in recruitment.
Yeah.
So we sit and tell them that out of the number that you're going to recruit, we need you to recruit this number of women. And if you do not know where to find these women, we have a community steering committee. We are going to present these opportunities to the steering committee. Then the women will show up tomorrow morning for these jobs.
And were there any things that they would say, because this is some of the things I've heard, this is going to cost extra. Women, they need to have their own bathroom. So that's an additional cost. You need to get the right size equipment for PPE, the private protective equipment, the hard hats, the gloves, the shoes. And women tend to be smaller or they have different bodies. So have there been some of these challenges where they were like, maybe we don't want to go this route because that's just going to be more costly?
Yes, actually. So, in a way, because mostly the contractors usually refer to us as the safety personnel. So they tended to tell us that safety is a very expensive endeavor. But as much as it's an expensive endeavor, the contractors needed to include it so that to make sure that even in recruitment of the women on site, they needed to be in full protective equipment and garments as much as the men were. There are other specific requirements that are based on women recruitment, which are very much under safety. For instance, I don't know if I may mention this, but every woman has that period of the month that we all go through. So those are some of the considerations that we had to inform the contractor that once you employ women, you have to have the nurse put a certain medicine in her cabinet, yes, that they can come and have access to. So telling the contractor to get coveralls that fit women that are smaller size for women, it was difficult. So they would just bring the big coveralls that had already been purchased, and the women would just go with them, either tailor them to size or just use them as is.
Okay, so then now we have the EPC that is from the mechanics that is now coming, and now you have Liz. So there's two voices instead of one pushing. And how was that? Just walk me through, and then how what happened, and also when did it start opening the mind, or was it a bit of a fight until the end?
I think you see the easier part. Okay, it got easier because once a new contractor is onboarded and they find that the rest, all other ducks are in a row, they sort of toe the line. So it became easier. Now it moved from convincing on recruitment, because now they can also see even their counterparts are employing women, and if you are also not very keen, they'll take the women that have come to your end and give them job at their place. We did have such shifts at some point between the contractors where they find, okay, this side, it's more maybe favorable for me. So the women will be allowed the chance to be fluid and move to other contractors if their current employers allowed, and it worked. So now you find that it was not really the battle we will fight at that point, but maybe echoing on something that Liz has said, we also realized that once these women have been onboarded, then welfare became a very key thing to consider. Just those little small things that make a difference, we try to make it work for them. So for instance, if we're going to have security at access points, we're going to have both genders represented, so that if the women are coming through, they have to feel comfortable with the lady checking them if they're going to be frisked or anything of the sort. Then we will move to things like what Liz mentioned. When it's that time of the month, we will talk to the nurse, and we have to commend our contractors. They actually had 2 nurses on site, and they were both women. So we told them, hey, you know what? We're in a bush. Our project is in a forest. And I can imagine if I'm being hired today and my work needs to move, and it happens that it's that time of the month and I perhaps didn't anticipate, then that can just cost me the job for that day. So we asked nurses, hey, keep some sanitary towel with you in the nursing cabins, so that if someone comes and they have an emergency, they don't have to get out of the project and then replaced for the day and lose their pay for the day, but rather they can get assistance here, buy some time till maybe lunchtime, go home and get properly set, then come back for the afternoon session. So we did that, and we thought it was a very small gesture, but in our conversations with the women, it turns out it helped a lot.
Really? For them, they really felt like this really made a difference.
Yes. And they will even tell us, for them that had been in construction industries before, they will say it's not a thing that they've witnessed. It's not a thing that happens that you go to a construction site and there's even sanitary towels kept as emergency packs for women to get assistance so that they don't miss out on the job.
One of the things, it's the preconception that comes that I want to ask you, is that if you put women and men together in a construction environment, that you might have issues of sexual harassment, even gender violence. How did you deal with that, or did you have any cases of this? Any reflections that came from that, or did you have also a very specific trainings, learnings, but also grievance mechanisms for that were tailor made for women? How did you deal with this topic?
We did have such challenges, because at some point you're talking of having close to almost 200 and over people working for the project. So it's a very expected but sad dynamic, but you will have it. So in this case, we sat down and we strategized to proactively monitor on anything that is beyond a consensual relationship between people on site. And at the same time, we monitor for any off chances of GBV and SAH. And we did have some issues that came up during our construction period. And I would like to commend our employers so much for the systems that they put in place. Because in an area where you're having very many people working, you will have perceptions such as this is what normally happens. So people will expect that the normal will carry the day. But I can say, fortunately for us, it's a policy we implemented from the get-go. Our zero tolerance on that was set from the get-go. At the moment we started in fact, at the moment we inducted all contractors, onboarding them for mobilization, zero tolerance on GBV and SAH issues, stemming down from our company as the employer, in this case, or the developer in this case, was something that was zeroed on so keenly. And the other way I would want to commend our employer is that after construction, they went an extra mile and did a post-construction audit in the community to see if there's any issue that we might have missed that didn't get to our table during construction. That was unique. That was very forethought, and I think it's one of the things that make me very proud to be working with my current employer, because that was very intentional on actually ensuring that project impacts are kept at a minimum.
Sorry, Patricia, to interrupt, because I think this is important, because what you said is it was very intentional, right? What they did, it was intentional from the get-go. They had the process, the systems, they put them in place, but they were not just, here's a paper exercise. Yes, we say this, but it was properly communicated, monitored. It was kind of drilled, and then it was monitored also during the construction and then after. So like you said, the intentionality was very important from what you mentioned, right? I want to make sure that I capture that. Okay. Please continue.
So in such an instance, you find that when you have a backing like that, an employer backing you in that sense, you're sure the systems are for you, you're sure the policies are for what you stand for, then it becomes very easy to follow through on implementation. So on the ground, the grievance system during construction was very active, and we managed to get, I will say, over 95% of the grievances. But we did have one or actually two that didn't get to our table but were captured post-construction.
Okay.
That, that were touching on unwanted advances from a supervisor to a worker.
You didn't even know this was happening. You
Didn't.
did your
Yes.
post audit, which is again not part of a normal. This doesn't happen frequently. You found out that actually the contractors were also being intentional. Again, the word of they were actually saying we need to make sure that we are protecting the female workers, and they were actually making steps as well. But I want to ask Liz, you've been very quiet. Tell me a little bit more on some of the things also that when you were working there, and you had, challenges, but some of the things that you were not expecting to see, because you also came from a culture of this is not normal.
Yeah. Maybe before I mention that, I want to say that for pre-assembly, that was 100% employment of women. There was
What?
100% employment of women.
Pre-assembly was 100% women.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So learning from the women who are working with us, they say that even now, once we engage with them, even after construction, learning from them, they say that there is actually no work that is designed for a man or a woman. So as much as you're willing and you have the effort and energy that is needed for you to accomplish that task, you will definitely accomplish it. Because we did cable laying, and in cable laying it was 50-50. If it is 100 of them, 50 women, 50 men, and those cables are very heavy. So you would find that women are taking the cables from one section of the plant to another section of the plant. So I would really learn that a woman can do just as much as a man can.
And if I can ask a bit, because again, you know the communities, on the side of the communities, were there issues, for example, with children coming to, or women having to, having issues with childcare, or even at home with husbands being jealous, or having issues in the community where they're like, well, now our men are not being chosen, or were there any issues on that, or actually it was smoother than you thought?
So recently we were receiving a case from one couple that worked with us. So the guy comes in, seeks for the opportunity, he gets it. So the wife now informs the husband that they want to apply. So they came, applied, but she had to make sure that when she was applying for this work, the husband was not aware. So she came, and once she got the opportunity, now they just met while they were all in their roles.
Wait. So you're telling me he came in, he applied, he got the job. She came in
Yes.
without him knowing, apply, got the job, and then during both woke up, I'm going to work, darling, see you at work. And then they arrive, they're working the same place in different roles.
Yes. And now at that moment, now there's no way that the husband can ask the wife to go back home, because
I mean, now she's earning as well. I mean, that's money coming
exactly.
in. Interesting. That is interesting. And if I can ask, did you feel that you needed some formal authority?
There are some times it was a bit organic. There are other times it was not a bit organic. The time they had a scope of work, and after informing the contractor to bring in women, he brought in 100% men. So Patricia and I had to just go back to the contractor and tell them, now, no, as we know you've already employed all the people that you needed, but you need to bring in 2 other employees that are women.
Yeah.
As women who are working in this field, the part where we found that it was very organic was in dealing with issues, especially those of gender-based violence and sexual exploitation harassment, because a few times we called back the women, we sat them during lunch hour, we sat them together, women, asked them to give us to give us experience on how they're working with the men, they're working with their supervisors. And from those discussions, that's where we could pick up these issues that maybe this supervisor is liking me and he wants me to do this and I'm not willing, I'm not even able, because when I'm married, I don't want to expose myself in a certain way. So I think Patricia and I had that brilliant idea to just talk with these women, have them tell us what they think about the work, how the men are treating them at work, how the supervisors are treating them at work, if they are able to share their experiences with the contractor environmental and health safety officer, if they're able to also share with the nurse. And we also offered for them to share the issues with us. That worked well because, unless Patricia can confirm, I believe we had very low records of GBV because of that interaction.
Yeah, that was set up also, like I said, that was set up from the beginning, from early on.
I just wanted to really back up what she said. I think the way we would interact with these women, she can bear me witness, we used to go where pre-assembly is being done, so that it doesn't look like this strict thing, like we're coming to check on you. How are you with GBV? No. So we used to go where they are doing pre-assembly work. Then we'll start small conversations like, hey, how are you able to assemble this bolt into this? Then they start showing you. Then we're like, hey, you guys, are you not getting challenges when you're here and your husband's like this, like this? Then they'll start, it's so challenging. It's like this and this. You see, now the challenges that Liz was talking about when she started, the difference in religious culture.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we are having a project in an area where it's not okay for women not to be fully covered and not in pants, but the dressing is different. The head covering is different. You just can't come up with a hard hat without like doing your religious and everything. So we had women who were getting challenges from a societal aspect as well. So coming in to talk to them, we tried to make it be as seamless as possible so that we can really identify where the issues are. But we ended up getting indicators on how we were doing without even knowing. One of the very unique indicators that we got was that once the women who were allowed to come, allowed in quotes by their husbands, that's how they'll say, okay, my husband has allowed me, so I'm able to work in this and this setting. They will come out and tell us eventually that the women and their husbands back at home will sort of run background checks on the project and see, is there any sexual things going on around there? So then they're able to tell their women, stop. But they'll come back and tell them, hey, I found that your project is actually okay, so you can go on working there. So that told us that in their own societal policing, they will find that perhaps it was a safe space for their wives to work. We never knew that. We never even thought of it as an indicator until when they came out and said, yeah, all our husbands do that. Yeah. So we had it. It was something very unique. But to us, it was an indicator that, oh, okay, so we performed, we did well when it came to ensuring that the women have a safe space. Being women also, and I don't know, maybe you can also identify with this, I'm not sure, that it matters on how much support you're getting at home. Like if your number one cheerleader is not buying in, then you go in with a certain mind frame, like, maybe it's not the right thing for me, maybe it's not the right fit for me. But we are witness to stories of, I think the last group we sat with just to see how they're doing post-construction was telling us such amazing stories that they had husbands who, at the end of the project, this person has, I don't know, maybe it came out as if they do not really give their husband such details as that, oh, I've been paid, I've been done this. So the money has been kept and saved and saved and saved. Then at the end of contract, she goes and buys this business things to start her little hotel and all this. And then the husband is like, hey, you did this with the solar money. Yes, please go back and work there.
And now the project is over.
And it was the same, like all the women we've talked to post-construction, they've all gone into businesses. And they say now that's the thing everyone is saying, oh, wow. It was now such moments for us really give us like our lessons, like, wow, it was worthwhile pushing the way we pushed on this, because we have women who just, even one gave us a very interesting experience. Like, you do not know how elated we used to feel when we were walking in the village with our helmets and our safety boots, and we're like, oh, it's a thing.
Yeah.
You know? And that was very interesting to learn and hear. So such an experience.
And if someone's listening to this podcast and they want to replicate this on their project, what do they need?
I believe I'll mention just maybe two, and then Patricia will assist me in that. So I believe that something that has made it a success for our company is having a very procedural and standard operating procedures and policies, company policies, and also following international policies like the International Finance Corporation labor laws, because those laws and policies stipulate exactly how you're supposed to do your recruitment and engagement during employment and also construction. And the other thing I would say is that they really need to know what they need from their contractor and keep following the contractor. And because these guys are very busy, you may tell them something and then you go a few minutes later and they've already forgotten about it. So you just keep following up with the contractor, make sure that whatever safety requirement, whatever labor requirement that you've asked them to follow, it has been followed to the latter. So but maybe Patricia now can mention a few more.
Thank you, Liz. I think she's really summed it up. I will only add a little and say that I feel that from a developer's point of view, it helps to be thoroughly intentional. Like, if you're going to adopt a standard, don't adopt it for the sake of adopting it, but rather implement it, and it's like it has a domino effect. I can't imagine that our zero tolerance policy that felt like a statement when we were starting then had this ripple effect that blossomed into something that none of us could have envisioned. I mean, if we are able to attest to the fact that we have an employer who literally went beyond what is normal and even do something like a post-construction audit on matters on GBV, it really speaks to us that it pays to be intentional, and to be intentional is what got us here. That's one. Then number two, I will say that I feel like in our position, I will ask that people don't shy away from matters that normally would feel like it's okay to shy away from. I loved that when we were working in our EPC, she mentioned that the contractors had their safety officers. Those safety officers were men. And when we get to talk to, we also have these conversations with the women that were working in our community. It's so humbling to learn that the most key part of their grievance management system was that these men listened to these women. I was so humbled to learn that the safety officers played such a key role, and none of them only one had a female safety officer, the rest were men. And they carried that docket proudly. They listened to all nature of all issues. Actually, everyone would say, whenever we will go to our HSC, we will get all our issues resolved, personal or otherwise. They will listen to us. They will be intentional. They will follow through on issues. And it was not like a summary thing, like, oh, okay, I'll get and look into it. No.
But I am getting the feeling that one thing that you keep talking about and you keep saying is that you guys were very hands-on. So you were constantly there. Even when you said you have to chase EPCs. So you were chasing them and making sure that they're following it and not forgetting things, right?
Yeah. I would agree with you, Liz Volt too. It seriously meant it's as if we were in construction ourselves. But yes, it also felt like we had started this journey with them from the beginning. So just following through to see how it comes to completion was a big moment of a success for us to see. And administratively, by the way, I think even some, I would say, strategies were set on our side. Strategies were set to ensure that once you start anything on site, then start with ESG first. Like even during those weekly meetings that Liz will refer to, we would have the first agenda was ESG. Let's see. I think little moves like those, putting it at the beginning and not at the end, will really change so much. It really set the tone, and it really, and they will show the importance of ESG through.
And has this experience changed you in any way, maybe professionally or personally? Let me maybe start, Liz, for you. Has this changed you in any way?
If I may say, let me take us back to when we were beginning our conversation. I came in construction green. I don't know anything about construction. All I know is how to be an environment doctor and a community liaison officer. So it changed a lot of my perspective on safety and how to deal with women, especially in the sector of gender-based violence and sexual exploitation. You learn how to respond positively to maybe the afflicted person, how to comfort them, how to keep them at work, because you see there's some humiliation that comes with that kind of violations. So you learn how to be kind, you learn how to relate with people, and you learn how to also keep them at work and make sure that they respect each other, both men and women. Talk to the women so that they do not intimidate the other woman. Maybe someone who has already been violated and is within their circle. So I honestly think it taught me a lot. And Patricia being my immediate supervisor, she was very instrumental in giving me real life examples from where she had worked before.
Patricia, has it changed you in any way?
Yes, for sure. It changed me like 180 degrees on so many levels. When I look at when I have a retrospective look at where we started on gender inclusion and matters of gender when it comes to construction of a solar plant, I'll say number one for me was to never look or create a barrier where it doesn't really exist. I look at how many ways people would have come and said, this is not fit for this person. This is not, but you haven't tried this person out. You've just set a barrier for them to a point where they also, coming with their own perspective from the community, can also set barriers for themselves. And the way I will see them get surprised by their own effort and their own accomplishment tells me that there were some preconceived notions from themselves as well, as far as it comes to how far they can go. I think we have like a second testimony or a second case study of a woman who's literally constructed her own house beyond here with her own hands.
Yeah, not just one.
She learned the skills of construction in
Oh,
the
yeah.
solar, and then took those skills back to her
Yes.
home and constructed her own house.
Yeah, she said she doesn't see why she needs to hire a foreman. I mean, she did it here. Why not do it there? So she said, I tell my sons, you pick this one, I pick the concrete, let's build something. And she was giving us a story of how she saved enough to actually buy a piece of land back at home and constructed a house. So we just asked, did you really construct it with your hands since you are our strong builder here? She said, yes. How can I hire someone? And I got this. So that was the second woman who told us something of the sort.
We come in with our own, like we put boundaries and challenges ourselves without even ever trying something.
Actually, if I can just say something on that, you can imagine now, having worked in an EPC, I have seen scenarios where if the technical people say that this is our deadline and we have to clear this by this time, the HSC is sort of to toe the line and say, hey, you know what? We need people who can work fast and do this and do this. So they take the side of the technical aspect, forgetting that there's a social bit to look at as well. There's a safety bit to look at as well. So those are those now barriers that people put for themselves. Watching them being overcome, because as much as we recruited women here, there are women who came and perhaps asked for jobs and they were told maybe we don't have any jobs for cleaning, and they went back because that's the far they feel that they could have reached. So to see those ones that made it through and through to the end was just a big moment of learning for me. And I can't imagine if we had not started from a strong standpoint on this, I don't think we would have had such numbers going through to where the supervisors still prefer to finish with women over men.
And this last question to you is there something I should have asked? something that do you think it's important about this journey that we haven't discussed that you think needs to be told?
Maybe a little emphasis on post-construction audit, like Patricia mentioned. Post-construction audit on issues regarding women inclusion in construction. There's for the client themselves. I think it's necessary for the client to go back the way we are doing with Patricia. Go back to during construction, have a list of the women that are within your construction phase and reach out to them during the operation and maintenance phase. Because there's one lady who was very happy. She told us during construction she was sleeping down. She didn't have a bed. During construction there was this waste, the wood waste that we had, the pallets. So we gave these pallets, most of the pallets, once we called people to come and collect, you would find that women from the community are the ones who are coming to collect.
Yeah.
This specific lady, from the pallets that we gave, now she constructed a bed for herself, her children, her mother and her in-laws and her parents. And some of these things that could appear very small to someone, to the community are very huge.
Make a difference. Yeah.
So going back to the community after construction is necessary. One, to prevent unforeseeable risks and hazards and also grievances that may come to implicate the project.
I really feel like I can't talk enough on intentional integration. That makes all the difference. The moment you have a system that's not backing you up, the moment you have systems that are working against you, then it's very hard to make strides. And I give a personal experience of having worked as an EPC, where at times on certain projects you will get constraints from within, and seeing also how systems can support you, then comparing the two, I'll give my verdict that you'd rather just be intentional on integration of ESG into your systems, because one, we did construction with zero litigation issues on the project.
Yeah.
If we speak on an ESG perspective, we never had anyone saying, "Oh, I feel violated in this way," or "I've gone to the lawyer because I have this injury," or "I need to be claiming worker benefit injury." We never had that. And it came from that intentional integration.
I really want to thank you for taking the time and telling this. I'm hoping that others are going to take the time to also listen to you. If anybody reaches out to me and wants to contact you to exchange further, am I allowed to put you in contact?
Very much so, yeah.
Yes.
For sure.
Thank you both for sharing what it really takes. It has really been a pleasure listening to you, to your stories. Have a wonderful rest of the day.